Good morning and happy Thursday, everyone. Hello to everyone who's already watching live, and a big shout out to everyone who's watching on the replay. If you are watching this on the replay, let me know in the comments where and when you're watching from. It'd be great to find out. And if you do have any questions throughout this video, whack them in the comments, whether you're watching live or on the replay. If I don't answer them live in the video, then I shall answer and come back and respond in the comments. Good morning, James Chisholm. Always a pleasure to see you, tuning in promptly on time. Good man. Okay, so today I'm talking all about group attribution error. Before I talk about that, I'm going to talk a little bit about fundamental attribution error. Not in great detail, because I'm going to cover that in another video, which I haven't done yet. But as a quick overview, fundamental attribution error. James, I am head elf, so of course I know Santa. Yes, fundamental attribution error. It's really, the best way to describe this is to give a really simple and really common example. So for anyone who drives or has watched someone else doing it, you'll probably have experienced at some point someone cutting you up. And the majority of the time, your initial response is probably that person is a such and such, a word that I shan't use on my polite live video, of course. So it's their fault, they're driving like an idiot, they're a bad person. But there have also been occasions where you've cut someone up and you're aware of having done it, but it's okay because you were rushing to get someone to the airport on time. It's okay because you weren't sure where you were going and you needed to change lane at the last minute. It's okay because Todd was going 90 miles an hour down the motorway and you thought he was ahead of you when he was really behind, so you were racing to catch up and then nearly missed your exit. Whatever it might be. So that fundamental attribution error that shows up there is that you make assumptions of someone else's behaviors based on the behavior and assume malice or malintent behind it normally, whereas with your own behavior, you look at the surrounding situation. It's far more easy to justify it because you can look at that situation. So that's fundamental attribution error. But what I'm talking about today is group attribution error. So group attribution error is when we as individuals make assumptions about someone based on the group they belong to, or make assumptions about a group based on the people that belong to it. The former being the more common version of this. So what that means is that we attribute the opinions of the group, or what we know about the group, to every individual member of that group. For example, anyone who voted to leave Europe, voted for Brexit, they're all racist. That's clearly not going to be true. Yes, absolutely. People who are extremely racist are far more likely to have voted to leave, but that doesn't mean that everyone in that group is racist. That's ridiculous. But equally, to say that everyone who voted to remain is, they're all Ramonas, they all can't take that they didn't get their way when the decision was made, that's also untrue, because every individual is entitled to their own beliefs and opinions. Another great example would be, well, literally any political situation. The whole point of our political system and most similar systems, including the States, is to polarize. You've got the us and them thing going on. And so therefore you become part of groups. But it's not just politics and things like that. It'll impact in all sorts of different groups. So it could impact social groups, different social groups, particularly watch any American teen high school movie and you've got all of those groups straight away. You've got the jocks and the geeks or nerds, and you've got the cool, the whatever, the cheerleaders, and all those different groups. And then within their groups, they have their own way of doing things. And you see, stereotypes have been around for a long time. And group attribution error or bias is something that plays into that and is very closely linked to it. So where did it come from? Why do we have this, and what's it all about? Well, in essence, it's quite simple, really. Most biases and the way that we think generally can be traced back to being kind of an evolutionary thing that's developed because it helped us in some way at some point. And this is no different. So think about in tribal times, it's important to recognize the good in your group, feel like you belong and like it's a good group to be a part of, and then look at other groups and be prepared to see hostility, because it allows your group to grow stronger and defend yourself better against outside influences. So ultimately, that's where it comes from. And so what we tend to do is we would look at, let's say we've got two opposing groups that do similar things. So, a really simple example of this would be football fans. Or another example of this would be two different networking groups. So you've got one group that you're a part of and one group that you're not. And it doesn't really matter which one's better and which one's worse. But of course, whichever group you've chosen to become a part of, you're going to perceive that to be the better group of people. And if someone from your group acts in a way that's not really conducive to what you see the group as, because you want to see the group as a group of good people doing good things, effectively. That's a simplification. And so when someone does something that's not good, you can justify that behavior, or we have a natural tendency to justify that behavior because we want to protect our own by saying, no, Fred acted that way because in that situation, what was he supposed to do? And it's the fault of the circumstances and situation. But when we look at what if a member of the other group did the same thing, we would go, oh yeah, that's because that group are like that. What would you expect from someone from that group? Which is terribly unfair, really. And it creates, from that bias, it's very easy to misunderstand and misinterpret other people's intentions, and we assign intent that may not be there, and malice often. It's also really easy to overlook and dismiss errors of your own and of other people within your group that actually maybe you should be thinking twice about and questioning and looking at. So yeah, really, that's it. That's what group attribution error is all about. It's it's the tendency to perceive that any single individual member of a group shares the traits or opinions of that group as a whole, or to assume that every group must share the opinions or beliefs of one individual from that group. And that's it. Simple as that. How does knowing this help you? Well, being aware of it, as with so many of these biases, seems to be the catchphrase at the end of all of them. Just being aware of it allows you to notice it and look out for it, which allows you to have a slightly more balanced view and opinion of what's going on. One of the most powerful and useful ways to apply this right now, and I really would love if everyone could do this, or would do this rather, because everyone could do this. And there's a lot of debate going on around right now around COVID, in many different ways, whether you should wear a mask, whether you shouldn't wear a mask, whether you should get vaccinated, whether you shouldn't get vaccinated. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. There's valid arguments, and I can understand perspectives from both sides of it. Whether you're incredibly knowledgeable and intelligent and have worked in a relevant field and really know your stuff, or whether you've watched videos on YouTube and it comes from a real passionate, emotive place that you're basing your opinion on, based on what you consider to be right and wrong, regardless of what facts people might be spouting at you, whatever your stance is and wherever you sit, understand that the individuals from the other group, the people who think differently, they're not acting poorly to be mean. They're not doing it because they're arseholes. In their mind, they're doing it. That's their opinion, and they believe that for good reason. It's valid and justified for them. And like, just be nice to each other, guys. Just be nice. Understand that everyone's got their own opinion. They don't have to force it on you. You don't have to force it on them. But you're not likely to change someone's opinion by having a blazing row about it on Facebook. So let's all just be nice to each other. Anyway, that was slightly preachy. Moving on. Yes, that's group attribution effect, or group attribution error. I'll talk more about fundamental attribution error another time. But join me next week, and I'm going to be talking about, what am I talking about next week? Oh, false consensus effect. I think that's the one I'm going to be talking about next week. How very exciting. Actually, that's not very Christmassy, is it? Maybe I'll switch it up. Maybe I'll find some Christmas-related bias to talk about next week. Will that be my last one before Christmas? Oh, I've got one more. I've got one on Christmas Eve. Do you know what I'm going to do? Let me know in the comments. Would you like a bias video on Christmas Eve? Or would you like some other relevant thing with a Christmassy theme? I'll have to have a think about that. But if you've got any ideas or thoughts, let me know in the comments. And I will see you all next Thursday, 9 o'clock, if not somewhere else before, where I'll be talking about another bias. I think I will do false consensus effect next week, and then the week after something super Christmassy of some kind. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all soon.